In the 7th year of my marriage to Wei Xun, I discovered he had an outside mistress. In a moment of intense affection, he said to that woman, "Remove the mother. Keep the child. The one to be removed is Shen Yiluo, the head wife of this household, and the one to be kept is our own biological child. Once everything is properly settled, Jia and I will welcome you into the mansion." He dared to humiliate me like this. I have plenty of ways to make him suffer eternal damnation. Back then, at my father's funeral, Wei Xun knelt down and begged to marry me in front of all the guests. He said that he could live without an heir. But he could not live without Yiluo. He swore to heaven that he would treat me well, and would never take a concubine. Throughout these years, he was indeed exceptionally considerate and respectful towards me. Whether it was the noble young ladies who pursued him or the beautiful maids in the mansion, he never gave them a second glance. Even our adopted son, Wei Wenji, was brought back from the orphanage to protect me. I was confident that I had found a good man and never doubted him. Until, while I was worshipping Buddha at Shangyun Temple, a middle-aged woman burst in. She begged me to save her daughter. She said that her daughter had fallen in love with Wei Xun, which angered Wei Xun's beloved, and as a result, she was stripped naked and thrown into a brothel. "Madam, my daughter did indeed do wrong, but please at least spare her life. This commoner woman, in this world, only has this one child. No matter how bad she is still this commoner woman's lifeblood." I was a bit confused. Although my methods were ruthless, that was only towards powerful enemies on the battlefield. I had never been so vicious towards the countless women who liked Wei Xun. I suspected she had the wrong. To my surprise, she gave me a strange look and said, "It is impossible to be mistaken. General Wei has a residence on Hongshan Street. And my daughter, Chun Wan, works there." She said she serves Wei Xun's concubine, and that concubine is also the daughter of a disgraced official. Then she told me about Wei Xun's promises to that woman. Her daughter heard it when she was fetching hot water for the two of them to bathe. Chun Wan thought, if even the daughter of a disgraced official could become Wei Xun's official wife, then even though she was just a maid, her family background was clean. So what was wrong with trying to become a concubine? She tried. Then she was stripped naked and thrown into a brothel by people sent by that concubine. That concubine had bribed the madam. Moreover, the daughter of a disgraced official. A person came to my mind. Wei Xun promising to send her daughter back in 2 days. After the woman back when I followed Wei Xun to the battlefield. She was working by my side. What my fate just as I finished my breakfast. Shuiying brought the information she had found to me. Wei Xun, who loved me like a precious treasure, really did keep a mistress on Hongshan Street. Our adopted son, Wei Wenji, was also really his, and that mistress's biological child. My eyes gradually turned red. I had damaged my uterus, and couldn't have children. More than a year after Wei Xun and I got married, Wei Xun's clansmen suddenly came to pressure me into letting Wei Xun take a concubine. For my sake, Wei Xun had a big fight with his clansmen, and to protect me, he brought back a newborn baby who had just been abandoned from the orphanage. He named the baby Wei Wenji, saying that Wei Wenji would henceforth be his biological son, and everything he owned would be inherited by Wei Wenji in the future. After that, Wei Xun's clansmen never came to our door again. All of these had once been proof of Wei Xun's love for me. Now, they all turned into needles, densely pricking my heart. Wei Xun kept on Hongshan Street was named Yangfu. If the information hadn't been personally investigated by Shuiying, at the same time, I can accept Wei Xun's mistress being any woman, but I cannot accept that she is Yang Wanfu. Miss Shuiying looked at me with a worried look on her face. My hand was trembling. Shuiying knew how much I hated Yang Wanfu. Back then, after Wei Xun and I won a battle and returned to the capital, Yang Wanfu blended in with the cheering crowds lining the streets. Watching, she fell in love at first sight with Wei Xun. Atop his tall horse, after returning, she then wrote Wei Xun a perfumed invitation, asking him to enjoy the Lantern Festival together. Wei Xun ignored her. It wasn't until Wei Xun and I were boating on the lake that she tearfully came forward to confront Wei Xun about why he didn't show up for the date, and I only then found out about this. At that time, Wei Xun told her that he already had someone in his heart and asked her not to waste her time on him. Yang Wanfu, the only daughter of the Minister of Rights assistant, was a pampered young lady raised in luxury since childhood. As for me, although my family background was respectable, I lost my mother in childhood, and my father was absorbed in his official duties. I was left unsupervised, living as freely as a wild weed. She couldn't accept her failure. And even more, she couldn't. Therefore, half a month later, she bribed bandits. I blocked the long blade sent by the bandit for Wei Xun. That stab wound almost took my life. I barely came back from the gates of hell. But because my womb was injured, I could no longer bear children from then on. Wei Xun went crazy. Hating Yang Wanfu intensely, he said, "An uneducated child is the father's fault." After all this was done, he gripped my hand. His eyes red, gritting his teeth and saying, "If it weren't for the embroidered uniform guard watching, I would have really wanted to kill her with my own hands." Wei Xun never killed women or children. I believed he truly hated Yang Wanfu to death at that time. I never imagined he would keep Yang Wanfu as his mistress. Calculating the time Wei Wenji was born, Yang Wanfu already had his child in her womb just over 3 months after I married Wei Xun. I hated him for betraying me. I hated him even more for betraying me for Yang Wanfu. I was always 12 parts sincere to him. I thought he felt the same way about me. Shui Ying pried open my fingers. In my palm were several bloody crescent marks. But I felt no pain at all. My heart was what hurt. I refused to let go of the information Shui Ying found. Self-torturing myself by continuing to read. According to Shui Ying's investigation, Wei Xun indeed hated Yang Wanfu intensely at first. On the day the Yang family was exiled, he disguised himself and followed them. He planned to find a forest and kill Yang Wanfu, but when the woods were reached, before he even had a chance to act, he saw Yang Wanfu being dragged by several escorting constables deep into the woods to commit indecent acts. Wei Xun could have killed her to avenge me, but he couldn't bear to watch a woman suffer such humiliation. So, he stepped in to help her. Afterwards, he worried that without his care, Yang Wanfu would still be humiliated, so he simply accompanied them all the way, sending the Yang family to the place of exile. Upon arriving, he learned that a beautiful noble lady from the capital like Yang Wanfu would be nothing but a meal for men in such a place. So, he paid a large sum of money to the local yamen and bought Yang Wanfu. He took Yang Wanfu back to the capital and settled her on Hongshan Street. He left a sum of money, telling Yang Wanfu to make the best of it. However, Yang Wanfu had already seen through his disguise and recognized him as Wei Xun. She feigned illness to keep Wei Xun, then drugged him and had a relationship with him. It was that very night that Yang Wanfu became pregnant. My heart was cut like with a knife. That was 2 months after Wei Xun and I got married. He sent back a letter saying he was going to track down a wanted criminal. That trip lasted over a month. I had worried about him at home for over a month. And now I just learned that he wasn't chasing any wanted criminal at all, but protecting my enemy. Yang Wanfu's health was poor, and after becoming pregnant, her life was in danger several times. Wei Xun could only continue to look after her. As he cared for her, he developed feelings for her. As he cared for her, he lost his heart. Wei Xun had originally given her an ultimatum. As soon as the child was born, he would send her out of the capital. and they would never see each other again. But when Yang Wanfu gave birth to a son, he changed his tune, ordering Yang Wanfu not to appear before him, and not to demand a formal status. Now, he told Yang Wanfu that he would get rid of the mother and keep the child. Get rid of me, the head mistress, and keep her. Yang Wanfu's child, Wei Xun, was never one to make empty threats. When he said, "Once everything is settled," it likely meant his plot to remove the mother and keep the child had already begun. The pain in my heart didn't make me lose my mind. Instead, it made my thoughts clearer. I had helped Wei Xun. My late father's students held significant. Therefore, Wei Xun would never divorce me or separate from me. My hands trembling, I instructed Xueying, "Take my invitation card and quietly go to Huikuntang to invite the divine physician Zhang." Soon Xueying returned with the divine physician Zhang, after taking her pulse. Divine physician Zhang said, "Thousand-day joy is not really a poison. It is actually a good medicine. For patients who are melancholic, if they take this medicine with thousand-day joy, it works faster, but for healthy people, patient who went mad from taking Qianruan many years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell that madam was poisoned today. How long has my young miss been taking the medicine? How can this Qianruan be counteracted?" Xuying's eyes were red with anxiety. Divine physician Zhang said, "Judging by her pulse, madam probably started taking Qianruan about a year ago. This Qianruan isn't a poison. No antidote is needed. Just stop taking it from now on." After seeing off divine physician Zhang, Xueying gritted her teeth and said, Compared to Xueying's shock, I surprisingly felt a kind of absurdity, like, I really do understand Wei Xun. He has always been like this. When he loved me, to avenge me, he painstakingly schemed to confiscate the Yang family's property and exile them. When he loved Yang Wanfu, to make room for Yang Wanfu as the legitimate wife, he tried to kill me. But he forgot that Wei Xun could have what he has today. It was all thanks to my strategic planning for him. Back then, he was just a small vanguard on the battlefield. If I hadn't disguised myself as a military doctor and offered him strategies, how could he have continuously achieved military merits and risen through the ranks? Even later, when we returned to the capital, I was stabbed by a bandit, injuring my womb. That stab was also taken to save him. Wei Xun, he doesn't love me anymore. He could have divorced me. He absolutely shouldn't have plotted against me and sent me to my death. He betrayed my love. And even more so, he betrayed my trust in him. The deep affection between us has now all turned into molten iron and concentrated acid, pouring down on me, covering my head and face. Besides the pain, there was mostly nausea. He also forgot that I am a person who seeks revenge for even the smallest grievances. That year on the battlefield, the enemy sent people to trample the wheat seedlings of my people. So I set fire to their granaries. Now that I know the truth, I naturally won't let this pair of scoundrels off the hook. The spring rain drizzled down, and the flower stumps newly planted in the courtyard last year were scrambling to sprout new buds. Full of vitality, I stared at those flower stumps for a long while. A servant came to report that General Wei was busy with official duties today, and wouldn't be returning. For nearly a year, he has always stayed out, using official business as an excuse. Before, I worried he'd wear himself out at the yamen, so I had the kitchen stew tonics daily, keeping them ready. Now I know. He has been staying in Hongshan Street. He loves Yang Wanfu more and more. And when Yang Wanfu got jealous of him, he promised Yang Wanfu that he would never touch me again. He found all sorts of excuses to brush me off. they spent romantic nights in places I couldn't see. They were passionately entangled in the house on Hongshan Street. Wei Xun's heartlessness was even more hateful than the sudden warmth and lingering cold of spring. I hummed in affirmation. Making my decision, I went to the kitchen and made a bowl of sweet soup. Then personally carried it to Looming Courtyard. When I arrived, Wei Wenji was practicing calligraphy. He is 6 years old this year and has officially started school. The teachers at the academy praise him for being intelligent and eager to learn. But they don't know that I've been laying the groundwork for him since he was 3. Expending a great deal of effort before Wei Wenji. Wei Xun and I played the roles of a kind father and a strict mother. Therefore, Wei Wenji, seeing me come in, Wei Wenji straightened his back and began to silently write characters even more diligently. Jia, your father isn't coming home tonight again. Mother, father is busy with official duties. Please don't be angry with him. With the spring rain, the cold snap is back. Jia, rest well after you finish practicing your calligraphy. Mother will go to the yamen to deliver a thick cloak to your father. Mother doesn't have to bother. Last time I heard father say that his thick cloak for when he is on duty was left at the yamen and hasn't been brought back yet. All right then. I won't go. Wei Wenji visibly breathed a sigh of relief. A cold smile played on my lips. Wei Xun has a total of 6 thick cloaks. I've checked, and they are all at home. It is clear, he isn't entirely unaware of what is happening between Wei Xun and Yang Wanfu. These past 2 years, he hasn't been very close to me. Probably not because I'm strict with him, but because he knows that Yang Wanfu is his birth mother. I placed the sweet soup beside Wei Wenji's hand. He knew that I put nourishing ingredients in all the food I gave him. And he was also used to me making special meals for him. So he didn't suspect a thing. Taking the sweet soup and drinking it all up, I turned and left. I had a restless night. I dreamt that when I was young, Wei Xun and I were laughing and talking under the osmanthus tree. Osmanthus petals rustling down, and my smiling lover suddenly became hideous-faced, drawing his sword to kill me. In the dream, Wei Xun yelled at me, "If you make way for Wanfu." When I woke up, my back was covered in a thin layer of sweat. The door to the room was pushed open with a creak, and Wei Xun walked in. He saw that I was awake, and was a little surprised. But he quickly composed himself and said to me, "Yailuo, I finished my work and slept a bit at the yamen. Thinking I'd come back to change before the morning court and see you. I haven't seen you all day. I missed you, busy day and night. I thought it was because you didn't want to see me," I said coldly. Wei Xun eyed me suspiciously. "Yiluo, are you angry?" "Shouldn't I be angry?" Wei Xun changed to a fawning expression to coax me. "Once I'm done with this busy period, I'll definitely make time to properly accompany you." I snorted coldly and didn't speak. He turned around and asked Shuiying, "Does Madam usually drink the health soup the kitchen made for her properly?" That 1000-day joy was put into the health soup Wei Xun ordered the kitchen to make. "Madam drinks it every day as the general instructed, without missing a single day," Shuiying said. Wei Xun didn't notice the sarcasm in Shuiying's eyes and showed a satisfied expression. "Yiluo, that stab you took for me back then was too severe. You must take good care of yourself. Then I'll be at ease. Enough talk. I'm heading out for the morning court." After saying this, he couldn't wait to walk out. Just then, the head maid serving Wei Wenji came to report with an anxious face. "General, Madam. This is bad. Young master suddenly has a high fever, and won't wake up no matter how much we call him. Wei Xun immediately rushed towards Lumingyuan with large strides. I lifted my foot and followed him. Upon arriving at Lumingyuan, the lights were bright, and the maids and old women serving stood by Wei Wenji's bed, not daring to breathe, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Go invite Dr. Zhou. Wei Xun instructed the maid standing by the door. Then he had the young servant take his seal to ask for leave on his behalf. Soon Dr. Zhou arrived. He observed, listened, inquired, and felt the pulse. Finally shaking his head and saying, "The pulse doesn't reveal any specific cause. Let's bring down the fever first." Of course he couldn't tell. The poison I put in the sweet soup was a goo worm given to me by a Miaozhan scientist who was stranded in the northern lands when Wei Xun and I were fighting in the northern frontier. Let alone him, even if divine Dr. Zhang came, he wouldn't be able to see the clue. Prefectural Dr. Zhou prescribed medicine, had the maid-servant boil it, and poured it down Wei Wenji's throat. A few hours later, Wei Wenji's body temperature returned to normal. But he still didn't wake up. Perhaps he bumped into something. Prefectural Dr. Zhou said. Sweating, Wei Xun then hurriedly went to invite other doctors, even using connections to invite imperial physicians from the palace. Every one of them shook their heads just like Prefectural Dr. Zhou. After seeing everyone off, Wei Xun looked at Wei Wenji. Then at me, his eyes filled with scrutiny. Jia was perfectly fine. How did he suddenly become like this? I sneered. Perhaps I poisoned Jia. Wei Xun's face looked somewhat ugly. And he said dryly. Yiluo Jia calls you mother. No matter what. You shouldn't poison a child. Right, since you don't think I'm a poisonous woman. Why do you ask me this way? I looked at him sharply. Or do you think I usually treat him badly? And look like I would harm him? Of course not. I'm just worried about Jia. Just asking casually. I said. Physician Zhou of the Zhou Manor said. Jia offended something. But our general's manor is spotless. And Jia goes back and forth between the manor and the academy every day. What could he have offended? I fear it is because his birth parents' evil deeds have piled up. And Jia is suffering for his parents. Wei Xun's face turned ashen at my words. Tomorrow, I will go to Shangyun Temple to pray for Jia. I deliberately sighed to him. Monk Hanyan of Shangyun Temple is highly skilled in medicine and has cured many rare diseases. But unfortunately, we have a grudge against him, so he probably won't be willing to examine Jia. Which Hanyan? Wei Xun asked me. I curled the corners of my mouth. Have you forgotten? Assistant Minister Yang once had a close classmate named Zhongshu. And after Zhongshu's wife and child died unexpectedly, he couldn't bear the blow. So he became a monk. Monk Hanyan of Shangyun Temple is Zhongshu. You caused the Yang family to be raided and exiled. How could Hanyan be willing to save your adopted son? Upon hearing this, Wei Xun looked thoughtful. A moment later, Wei Xun left the manor under the pretense of seeking a famous physician. I smiled. Wei Wenji is the biological son of Wei Xun and Yang Wenfu. Of course, they would save him. Later in the evening, Shui Ying told me that Wei Xun had ordered a carriage to be hitched. And he was taking Yang Wenfu to Shangyun Temple tomorrow. Miss said she was going to Shangyun Temple to pray for blessings tomorrow. But he is not afraid of bringing someone along and being seen by Miss. They've been together for almost 7 years. And I never suspected anything. So they naturally became bolder. The next day, I spent a lot of money to invite the abbot of Shangyun Temple to give a Buddhist lecture. Yang Wenfu and Wei Xun were sitting in the meditation room, separated by a wall. Shui Ying, timing it perfectly, burst in, panicking. "Miss, your servant saw the son-in-law and a woman." My face changed dramatically. I apologized to the abbot, and stood up to leave. I burst into the meditation room, and Wei Xun and young Wanfu were greatly startled. In their opinion, I should have been in the main hall praying for Wei Wenji, not in the meditation room. Wei Xun felt a little guilty. But Yang Wanfu's eyes were red with grievance. So he suddenly gained courage and stepped forward to shield Yang Wanfu. I couldn't help but sneer. "Shen Yiluo." Wei Xun spoke. He probably thought that since things had come to this, it was better to lay his cards on the table. But before he could speak, someone appeared and interrupted him. "What is going on here?" Madame Chen walked in with her people, frowning as she looked at Wei Xun. Madame Chen's husband was a censor in the current dynasty, and he used to be my father's student. If Wei Xun dared to lay his cards on the table today, the impeachment memorial against him would be on the emperor's desk tomorrow. Thus, the courage he had just mustered instantly vanished. After his mind raced, he said, My gaze bore into Yang Wanfu. Yang Wanfu had no choice but to nod. Yes. So Master Zhang let his concubine meet privately with you alone? Of course not. Zhang Qing was also at Shangyun Temple. And he brought Miss Yang here, Madame Chen said. Since Master Zhang is also here. Whether it is true or false, just call the person over and ask. Then we'll know. Zhang Qing was indeed at Shangyun Temple, and was quickly called over. Madame Chen asked Zhang Qing, Is Yang Wanfu truly your person? Zhang Qing glanced at Wei Xun, then smiled embarrassedly at me and Madame Chen. He and Zhang Qing had no open friendship. He thought I didn't know. But last year Zhang Qing got drunk and said the wrong thing in front of the fifth prince. And he was the one who helped cover it up. He had done Zhang Qing a favor. Zhang Qing's reputation has always been bad. She is just an outside concubine, so admitting it for her benefactor isn't a difficult thing at all. But he didn't know that Zhang Qing's fiancée, Xi Luan, had her hometown in Luzhou, living next door to my maternal grandparents' house. Before I was 10, I played with Xi Luan almost every day. Zhang Qing appearing at Shangyun Temple today was also my doing. I coughed lightly, and Xi Luan then walked out from behind Madame Chen. She looked at Zhang Qing disappointedly and said, Young Master Zhang, you told me earlier that you had completely cut ties with all the other women outside. And I believed you. Only today do I realize. You've been lying to me all along. You said you liked me. But it turns out you were just paying lip service. Lit had a mouth. Since that is the case, let's call off our engagement right here and now. Zhang Qing was instantly dumbfounded. He quickly explained. Luan, don't overthink it. I didn't lie to you. I really have cut ties completely. Then what about her? How do you explain? Xi Luan pointed at Yang Wanfu. Just now you personally admitted that she is your Wei Xi mistress face-eyed concubine. As she spoke, she pulled out the wooden hairpin from her hair and threw it on the ground. Take your things back yourself. Tomorrow, I will return to Luzhou, and from now on, we are completely cut off. Lit. One knife. Two breaks. She. Zhang Qing picked up the wooden hairpin, which clearly looked handmade, and awkwardly tried to stuff it into Xi Luan's hand. Seeing that Xi Luan refused to take it and looked like she was about to turn and leave, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, When did I ever say she was a Wei Xi? I kept. When I answered Madame Chen and Madame Shen, what I meant was that I brought her along. But there is no relationship whatsoever between her and me. Xi Luan looked up at Zhang Qing. Zhang Qing felt encouraged and spoke more and more smoothly. She is actually a courtesan Qingguan Ren from the Vermilion Red House. Zhu Honglu. Before I met you, I saw her at the Vermilion Red House, and we discussed poetry and prose together. But I swear, I have nothing to do with her. She is a Qingguanren. A Qingguanren from the Vermilion Mansion. She only sells her art, never her body. General Wei is deeply devoted to Madame Shen and has never been to a place like the Vermilion Mansion. He doesn't know about this. I heard General Wei was looking for help from the Yang family. So I thought of her. So I brought her here. Really? Shi Luan raised an eyebrow. Zhang Qing held up 3 fingers. Ah, Luan. She glanced at me and said softly, so Miss Yang possesses the quality of emerging from the mud unstained. I sneered. Then let someone examine Miss Yang's pulse. So a Luan can be at ease. Yiluo is joking. This is Xiangyun Temple. It would be too disrespectful to have a doctor from the temple determine if Yang Wanfu is still a virgin. Wei Xun said awkwardly. Naturally, there is no need to trouble the temple doctor. I turned and took the hand of a lady beside Madame Chen. Wei Xun's face was livid. Wei Tone was indifferent. Everyone knows that the abbot of Xiangyun Temple is profound. Today, Madame Chen was originally bringing the ladies to listen to the abbot preach. But upon hearing that I wanted to pray for Jia, she kindly added a cushion for me. These ladies, I carefully selected them. Besides Xie Luan, Madame Chen, and Madame Li, the remaining 3 are notorious gossips in the capital. When I learned that Wei Xun betrayed me, I found Madame Chen and Xie Luan for help. I didn't need to worry about the rest. They would take care of it for me. With the situation at this point, Wei Xun was helpless. A maid stepped forward and dragged the unwilling Yang Wanfu to Madame Li. Soon Madame Li sneered. And she still pretends to be a pure courtesan. Just to fool those rich fools. Right, Xie Luan was furious, pouncing forward and slapping Yang Wanfu. A daughter of a criminal official, now nothing but a slut ridden by thousands, yet dares to feign integrity in front of this young lady, and conspire with my fiancé Fei to deceive me. The surrounding ladies also chattered and pointed fingers. Lord Zhang. What is so good about this Fei? Why bother losing your engagement with Miss Xi for her? But recently, I haven't heard of Lord Zhang being involved with anyone. Perhaps he really has changed and isn't lying. Then Lord Zhang must have been fooled by this Fei. Yang Wanfu. Honestly, at least she came from a scholarly family. The legitimate daughter of the Ministry of Rights Vice Minister. How arrogant she used to be. To actually allow herself to fall to this extent, a total disgrace to the Yang family's ancestral graves. Zhang Qing was pulled and interrogated by Xie Luan, while Yang Wanfu was besieged by a group of madams. Wei Xun was so anxious that the corners of his eyes turned red. But he could only hold back and not react. I looked at him, smiled, and said, "Good thing you never visit brothels. Otherwise, today, even 10 mouths wouldn't be able to explain yourself. Such a filthy person. You've always found it dirty just to glance at. So she has fallen to that kind of place. Back then, you even said you'd personally kill her to avenge me. Now it seems she has her own retribution, and it is not your turn to act." After some effort, Monk Hanyan was finally invited back to the general's manor by Wei Xun. Unfortunately, he also didn't understand Gu poison. What made him a bit better than other doctors was that besides prescribing medicine, he could also chant scriptures. Wei Wenji still hadn't woken up. Wei Xun's eyes were red, and he could no longer maintain his disguise towards me, becoming somewhat impatient. Back then in the Northwest Army camp, his patience was never as good as mine. I tucked in Wei Wenji's blanket. Then suddenly looked up at him and said. I continued. Brothels Fei are incredibly filthy. If you get involved, your reputation will be ruined for a lifetime. Wei Xun's face turned ashen. Yiluo. You've always been the kindest. Yang Wanfu did wrong by you. But she is already in this state. She made a mistake back then, but her nature isn't bad. Ah Xun. I chuckled. Who told you I was kind? I've never been kind. I always get my revenge. Wei Xun looked at me with a face full of disappointment. I added. She is already done Fei. So what does my bit of mockery count for? Words are like wind knives and frost swords. In the manor on Hongshan Street, Yang Wanfu was crying and threatening to hang herself. After Wei Xun saved her, she cried and collapsed softly into his arms. It must be that Fei Shen Yiluo who is scheming against me. Wei Xun hesitated before speaking. It shouldn't be. Wei Shan Temple was just a coincidence. Yesterday at Xongshan Temple, from pinning the Fei label on me, to confirming my unchaste behavior, she was in charge of it all. She already hates you, so it is normal for her to target you in that situation. Besides, if she knew you were my mistress, with her personality, how could she let me go? Yang Wanfu got angry. Wei Xun. You always speak up for her. Do you still have her in your heart? You said you loved me. Was it all a lie? She said with a desolate expression. She's saying that the legitimate daughter of the Ministry of Rights now go around bragging to everyone that they ordered me at the Vermilion Red Chamber. Since you don't love me, I might as well be dead. Wei Xun quickly hugged her and coaxed her. I know best what kind of person you are. I will never believe outside rumors. My heart for you. Heaven and earth can bear witness. I was thinking it slur. Is firstly because she did me a favor. Now that she has harmed you, I will not keep her any longer. Now is still in a coma and needs the care of you. His birth mother. I'd like to see what methods they will use to get rid of me. When Wei Xun returned, he brought me preserved fruit from East Street. When I was young, I stayed at my maternal grandparents' house in Luzhou, and my taste buds were like theirs, not fond of sweets. But 7 years ago, after being stabbed, I drank bitter medicine every day, and really couldn't swallow it. So Wei Xun would send me a pack of preserved fruit daily. Later, I no longer needed to drink medicine, but the habit of eating 2 pieces of preserved fruit every day remained. Wei Xun sent me dried fruit, which meant he wanted to reconcile with me. I smiled at him and said, there is a lead for Jia's illness. Physician Zhang has a junior fellow apprentice, who travels extensively, and is very knowledgeable. He says it is soul loss syndrome. He is confident he can cure Jia, and he prescribed medicine. If we give him 20 taels of silver worth of medicine every day, he'll wake up in 1 or 2 months. Wei Xun was overjoyed. Money isn't important. As long as he can wake up. Wei Wenji was his only child. Yes, money isn't important. I thought, considering my own plans. Her father works for the Ministry of Justice, and said that a gang of bandits had recently appeared in the capital, committing burglaries, and having several murders on their hands. Today, they tracked down shopkeeper Shu, who was fencing stolen goods for them, and discovered that Wei Xun was in contact with shopkeeper Shu. Her father knew Wei Xun was my husband, so he suppressed the matter, and sent her to ask me what was going on. I suddenly understood. So he wanted to hire assassins to kill me. He is a general. Yet his scheming is so crude. I told Xie Luan about Wei Xun and Yang Wanfu's plan. Xie Luan sneered. That heartless man is truly vicious. It wouldn't be excessive, even if you threw him into a pot of boiling oil. Yiluo, what do you want to do? Xie Luan was naturally trustworthy. I wouldn't lose trust in all my friends because of one unfaithful man. Therefore, I told Xie Luan my plan. Then I said, Wei Xun betrayed me, and I emptied the Wei family's coffers considering it as interest. I had originally planned for the people from the Shen family's estate to do this. But now that he is hiring assassins, I wonder if Uncle Xie could lend me a few of his loyal subordinates. Xie Luan smiled. Back then in Luzhou, if it weren't for you, Xie Ming and I would have drowned. My father remembers your kindness, and he will definitely cooperate with you on this matter. Xie Luan left in a hurry. After dinner, 10 tall, burly men with light footsteps, dressed in household servant clothes, hid in various corners of Qinghuan courtyard where I lived. After waiting for 2 days, I received news from Xie Luan. I then knew that Wei Xun had settled things with the bandits, and they would soon take action. That day, Wei Xun suddenly said that the Yamen had urgent business for him to attend to. Before he left, when he looked at me, his eyes were like. I smiled as I saw him off. At night, a major incident occurred in the general's mansion, but the servants were snoring like thunder. I drank tea all night in Qinghuan courtyard. The next morning, the awakened servants stumbled and crawled all the way to the Yamen to report the crime. Wei Xun, his face full of sorrow, rushed back. Yiluo, you must not be hurt. When he saw me sitting perfectly fine in Qinghuan courtyard, his wailing stopped abruptly, like a chicken whose neck had been squeezed. I'm fine, are you very disappointed? I looked at him. Wei Xun froze in place, a flicker of panic on his face. Finally, he calmly said, How could I be? It is good that Yiluo is fine, nothing could be better. I gave him a meaningful look and said regretfully, I don't know why, but everyone slept very soundly last night. Wei Xun. In a few days, it is the Buddha's birthday, and there are social exchanges with various mansions. Which of these doesn't require silver to manage? Aren't there still shops and estates? Jia is so seriously ill. I heard there is a divine Dr. Valley in Jiangnan. 2 days ago, I mortgaged all the shops and estates in the mansion, hoping to take Jia to the divine Dr. Valley for treatment. But before I even had a chance to tell you, Zhang Shenyi's junior apprentice happened to return to the capital. The shops and estates hadn't been redeemed yet, when the mortgage deeds were stolen by thieves. Don't you have any money on you either? If not, I'll go out and borrow money. The Ministry of Justice, knowing my general's mansion is in such a predicament, will surely intensify efforts to apprehend the bandit. He was afraid that I would go out and borrow money, which would make him lose face, and also afraid that the investigation into the bandits would lead back to him. In the days that followed, whenever Wei Xun returned to the mansion, I would ask him for money. It was still early until payday. How much money could he possibly have on him? I held Wei Wenji, who was critically ill and unconscious, as leverage, so Wei Xun had no choice but to give me money. Therefore, he constantly took money from Yang Wanfu. Yang Wanfu was initially unwilling, but those bandits were introduced to Wei Xun by her. Yang Wanfu had long since contacted Vice Minister Yang, who was in exile, and Wei Xun promised her that once he dealt with me, and Yang Wanfu became the mistress of the general's mansion, he would find a way to bring the Yang family back. Among those bandits, there was one person whom Vice Minister Yang had met in exile. Seeing that Wei Xun agreed to act against me, Yang Wanfu immediately recommended him. Now the bandits took Wei Xun's commission. Not only did they not kill me, but they also took all the valuables from the general's mansion. How is this any different from letting a wolf into the house? For this period, Yang Wanfu felt somewhat guilty whenever she faced Wei Xun. She could only take out all the money Wei Xun had given her previously, one by one, to provide for the family. Since she could give, I no longer held back and asked for more and more. Gradually, Yang Wanfu couldn't take it anymore, and coupled with the increasing number of scandalous rumors about her in the capital, which initially involved dissolute young masters, but later even peddlers and laborers got involved, Yang Wanfu found this very humiliating. Her heart was bitter. So she had more and more arguments with Wei Xun. All the money from the general's mansion, I moved it to the old residence of the Shen family. And the group of bandits arranged by Wei Xun and Yang Wanfu are currently being held by Uncle Shi. I planned that once I had completely emptied Yang Wanfu's money, I would have Uncle Shi bring that group of bandits to court. Wei Xun worried about money every day, and when he went to Hongshan Street, Yang Wanfu's crying and nagging gave him a headache. He wore a tired face every day, looking very haggard. Just then, the imperial court decided to completely resolve the Japanese pirate problem along the southeast coast, but couldn't decide who to send out. The soldiers of the Dian dynasty were not good at naval warfare, so no one dared to be the first to volunteer. In the imperial court, Wei Xun was either spacing out or dozing off from lack of sleep. Someone called his name, and he stepped forward and accepted the mission. Just like with Yang Wanfu, from the moment he escorted the Yang family to the place of exile, he had drawn his bow with no turning back. Wei Xun had achieved illustrious military exploits in the northwest back then, and could be considered a famous general of Dian, but he was the sole heir of the Wei family for 3 generations. So the emperor had no intention of sending him to resist the Wokou. Now that he had volunteered, the emperor was immensely grateful and bestowed upon him generous rewards. Wei Xun secretly kept back more than half of the rewards, and sent them to Hongshan Street, handing the rest to me. He played the emotion card with me. Yaluo. We have been married for over 7 years, and our relationship has always been good. Recently there might have been some discord, but that was just bickering. In my heart, I love you as much as ever. You cannot bear children, and I have never used this to make things difficult for you. Although Jie is an adopted son, our entire remaining lives depend on him. Once I leave, I don't know when I'll return. By then, you should close the gates and doors. Take good care of Jie, and I hope when I return, Jie will have fully recovered. At the same time, he didn't forget to paint a rosy picture for me. Seeing me agree, Wei Xun immediately said he had official business to hand over, and lifted his feet to leave. He couldn't wait to go to Hongshan Street. There was someone he wanted to spend time with even more. The next morning, Shuiying told me that Wei Xun had spent a night of passion with Yang Wanfu on Hongshan Street. He promised Yang Wanfu that he would definitely go forward bravely and kill all the Japanese pirates. When he achieved military merits, he would use those merits to ask the emperor to pardon the Yang family's crimes, bring Vice Minister Yang and others back to Shengjing, and then he would gloriously take her as his wife. In their vision for the future, I, the proper mistress of the house, was clearly already a dead person. I couldn't stop sneering. Wei Xun forgot that he had never fought a naval battle. He also forgot that this was the first time he went on an expedition without my company. Me, his female Zhuge Liang, achieve military merits. I think he'll either become a deserter general or leave his life in the sea. I went to the Xia family to visit Uncle Shi. Although he was from the Ministry of Justice, he held a high position and could also meddle a bit in the affairs of the Ministry of War. I asked him to arrange a supervising censor for the army on this expedition. Wei Xun's going this time. He would either achieve military merits or die there. He absolutely couldn't be a deserter general. If he achieves military merits, I'll make those bandits expose Wei Xun. Make Wei Xun be cursed by thousands. And then divorce him. If he dies there, I'll be the loyal and valiant widow, and the prestige of the general's mansion will be inherited by me from then on. I no longer have my parents' protection. The world is harsh on women, and divorce, for me, is the worst strategy. Wei Xun dying in battle, that is the best strategy. On May 10, Wei Xun's army set off. I went to the city gate and watched him leave. His back was straight. His posture just like when we returned to the capital victorious. 7 or 8 years had passed. But they left no trace on him. And I was already riddled with wounds. For a man to be infatuated, he may still be freed. For a woman to be infatuated, she cannot be freed. Men and women are inherently different. After Wei Xun left, I returned to the general's mansion, searched through Wei Xun's study, and found the deed to the house on Hongshan Street. Yang Wanfu was not of good standing, so she could not own property. Therefore, Wei Xun's name was written on the deed. I invited Censor Chen's wife, brought people, and went grandly to Hongshan Street. Yang Wanfu had also gone to see Wei Xun off. By the time she returned, we were already sitting in the courtyard drinking tea. I told her that this house belonged to Wei Xun, and that her being able to live here was probably due to Wei Xun respecting Director Zhang's feelings. But Xie Luan is my close friend, and I cannot watch Director Zhang make a mistake and betray Xie Luan, so I must take back the house. Yang Wanfu's eyes turned red with anger. But in front of the censor's wife, for Wei Xun's sake, she ultimately dared not speak directly. Dared not say she wasn't a prostitute. Dared not say she had nothing to do with Zhang Qing. Dared not say that this house was bought by Wei Xun for her to live in. A beauty's tears are captivating, but the hero who could save her was no longer there. Yang Wanfu, stared at by many eyes, packed a small bundle, and was driven out of the mansion, looking utterly disheveled. The gold, silver, pearl jewelry, and clothes Wei Xun had bought for her, and the imperial gifts secretly sent. She couldn't take any of them. My heart was truly delighted. So I invited Mrs. Chen to Hekin Tower for dinner, and we drank a couple of light wines. Coming out of Hekin Tower, after seeing Mrs. Chen into her carriage, I looked at my own carriage and said to Shui Ying, "Let's walk a bit. Get some fresh air." The May wind was already a bit warm, reminding me of the day I married Wei Xun. That day, he was plied with a lot of wine, and under the glow of the red candles, his eyes shone brightly as he looked at me, filled with the joy of marrying me. He once loved me. It is just that he fell in love with Yang Wanfu again. Even now, I still can't understand how a person's heart can change so quickly, how they can wish for their original spouse to die, just because they've fallen for someone else. But it doesn't matter if I can't understand, I have ways to protect myself. I'm not the one who did wrong, and I'm not the one who is going to die. Shui Ying stayed by my side, whispering her report to me. After Yang Wanfu left Hongshan Street, she pawned the bracelet on her hand. When she came out of the pawn shop, a small beggar pounced on her and hugged her leg. She kicked the person away in disgust, then used a stone to smash the small beggar's head. She told the patrolling officers that he was a small thief. After that, she rented a small courtyard in Qinglin Alley and settled down, probably intending to wait for the general to return there. I knew about the bracelet on Yang Wanfu's hand. 3 years ago, Wei Xun gave me an identical one. In other words, at least 3 years ago, my position in Wei Xun's heart was no longer more important than Yang Wanfu's. When I made Yang Wanfu leave, I intentionally didn't let the maids remove her bracelet. Giving people hope first, then tearing that hope apart, is the most heart-wrenching. I smiled and said, "Send people to keep an eye on her. If there is no unusual movement, don't mind her." On the day Wei Xun left for the expedition, Wei Wenji woke up, but his face was covered in dense red rashes, making it inconvenient to see people. The next day, I took Wei Wenji to live in Fengshan Villa, where the scenery was pleasant and suitable for recuperation. Everyone outside said I was a good mother, treating Wei Wenji, though not my biological son, better than my own. No one knew that I had selected a group of intelligent and polite young boys of similar age from orphanages across various regions, and raised them in Fengshan Villa. I secretly hired martial and literary masters to teach them. I allow them to call me mother. She suspected that I knew about her and Wei Xun's secret. But then she heard that I treated Wei Wenji extremely well, and personally accompanied Wei Wenji to Fengshan Villa to recuperate. And she thought I was still being kept in the dark. She spent every night in anxiety, hoping every day for Wei Xun to return victorious. When Wei Xun comes back, everything will be fine. Unfortunately, Wei Xun will not be coming back. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, the Ghost Gate opened, and the news of Wei Xun's death reached the capital. For Yang Wenfu, he fought bravely in every battle. But he was not good at naval warfare, and his strategies were very crude and full of flaws. Therefore, after arriving at the southeastern coast, he suffered minor defeats continuously. The imperial court had high hopes for him, thinking he was practicing, and in a while, he would be able to control the Wokou. However, on the 7th day of the 7th month, he received a letter from the capital, and in the process of fighting the enemy, he became reckless. He thought he was an angry army, invincible, and as a result, suffered a great defeat, was wounded by an arrow, and fell into the sea. He could swim, but a small ditch is different from the vast ocean. By the time he was pulled onto the ship by his soldiers, he was already beyond saving. The letter Wei Xun received was sent to the capital by the supervising censor, along with the battle report. Urgent dispatch covering 800 li. The battle report was sent into the palace, and that letter was delivered into my hands. She said in the letter that I kicked her out of Hongshan Street on the day Wei Xun left the capital, saying how difficult it was for her to live alone in Qinglin Alley, saying she was the Fae in everyone's eyes, and now without protection, how the men in the capital were harassing her. The Yang Wenfu in the letter desperately needed Wei Xun's rescue. No wonder Wei Xun would suddenly be so reckless. I held the letter, and went to Qinglin Alley. In Qinglin Alley, sure enough, there were idle men guarding Yang Wenfu's doorway. Seeing me arrive, those unkind eyes fell upon me. But seeing the attendants behind me, they immediately retracted their gaze, bowed their backs and slunk away. I had my attendants kick open Yang Wenfu's courtyard gate, and stepped inside. Yang Wenfu turned pale with fright, looking at me with a terrified expression. Madam Shen, I rented this house myself. I know. I smiled at her. I'm here to tell you about Wei Xun's death. Yang Wenfu shrieked. What did you say? Who died? I threw that letter in front of Yang Wenfu, and said with a smile. A disloyal person like him should have died long ago. But I have to thank you. If it weren't for this letter of yours, I would still have to find an opportunity to act against him myself. Well, now he is dead. A loyal martyr. And all the compensation for a loyal martyr will fall upon me. This general's wife Yang Wenfu. First you almost killed me, and damaged my womb. Then you stole, now, contributing this much for my security in the latter half of my life. It is what you should do. Yang Wenfu clutched the letter, collapsing onto the ground, her voice trembling. You knew. You knew all along. When did you know? The day before Wei Wenji fell ill. I suppose. A beautiful face, completely devoid of color. Yang Wenfu finally understood that her and Wei Xun's crude schemes were like a joke in my eyes. They had lost completely. She immediately cried and laughed, her expression becoming frenzied. Both she and I knew clearly that she had completely lost all. She gnashed her teeth, glaring at me with hateful eyes. Do you think you've won? You can't bear children. Wei Wenji will be the pillar of the Wei household. He will contend for an imperial title for me, making me the most respected widow in the great Yan dynasty. Yang Wanfu's expression immediately turned smug. What makes you think that? You killed Jaya's father, he will only hate you. I smiled and said. Yang Wanfu. Do you know? When Wei Xun and I argued, Wei Xun said that although you did wrong, you are kind by nature. When he said you were kind in front of me, what he meant was that I wasn't kind enough. I don't understand. How are you kinder than me? That day you came out of the pawnshop, that little beggar, sick, hugging your leg and calling you Mom. The money you got from exchanging the bracelet was just enough to cure his illness. But you smashed his head with a stone and told the patrolling officers he was a little thief. Such a small child thrown into prison by the officers became a corpse that very night. Yang Wanfu. Tell me. If that little beggar had a mother, would she be heartbroken? Yang Wanfu's expression froze. She immediately went crazy, pouncing on me, pulling at the hem of my skirt. Incoherent. No. Tell me it is not true. Jer. No. I looked at his face. It was all festering. He was just a little beggar. Nobody wanted. He couldn't be Jer. Yang Wanfu collapsed, screaming. At this moment, the bone gouging, marrow excavating pain I felt when I learned the truth was finally released. Coming out of Qinglin Alley, the sunset fell upon me. I looked down at my hands, clean and spotless. I didn't die back then. And I won't take Yang Wanfu's life now. She lost all her reliance. For her, living was more painful than dying. Without Wei Xun's care, with no money on hand, and her reputation ruined, she would rot and stink in this Qinglin Alley. Wei Xun, from the moment he gave me Qianrihuan, he should have died, and I, only 27, without them, my future was nothing but a brilliant open road. 2 months later, Wei Xun's corpse returned to the capital. The weather was hot, and he was already badly decomposed. I had someone send it to Qinglin Alley. Yang Wanfu was so disgusted she threw up the moment she saw it. After this, Yang Wanfu started receiving clients in Qinglin Alley. She truly became a prostitute. I didn't know if she did it to make her life no longer poor, or to cling to powerful figures and take revenge on me. But a place like Qinglin Alley, apart from me, no powerful figures would ever set foot in. She was too stupid, if it was for revenge. Doing this would only trap herself in the gutter. I sent people to keep an eye on her. Sure enough, just 2 months later, she was targeted by local thugs and became their money-making tool. A year later, a female corpse was found in the city moat. My youthful feelings, at this moment, finally came to